Welcome to the Big 12 Deep Dive Podcast. Today we've got some interesting stuff going over the AP poll and then the Big 12 games in this week, and then a recap, a little bit of Iowa State and Cincinnati. So we're going to talk about this first because I recorded a Week 6 recap video, but it did not. I lost a bunch of the files for it, so I did not get that video uploaded. So I'm kind of cramming two videos into one. But the first thing we're going to talk about for a few seconds is the Iowa State-Cincinnati game. Just a little bit. Rocco Becht had an unbelievable performance on Saturday, I thought. I thought he balled out, especially after taking that cheap shot to the head, which I was a little stunned to see the amount of Cincinnati fans that were saying that was not targeting. He lowered his head. I'm just like, that's like, I don't know. I know Iowa State fans, we do the same exact thing sometimes, but that was just kind of surprising to me a little bit. The reaction of the Twitter mostly about that call. But yeah, also going along with Iowa State, it sounds like Carson Hansen is questionable for this Saturday. We're going to get into that a little bit more as well because he left in the second quarter, I believe, maybe third quarter of the Cincinnati game and did not return. So does that mean a bigger role for Abu Sama? Does that mean we get to see Dylan Lee a little bit more? We're going to get into all of that as well. We are going to talk about the AP poll. I'm going to put a list for you guys right here on this side, or maybe this side, whichever one. To be completely honest, I don't have much of a problem with the top 10 teams on this list. I think, honestly, I might put Miami over Ohio State, but that's just me personally. I don't really have much of a problem with anything else on this list for the top 10. We're going to get into the 11 through 15. Every single one of these teams I have a problem with because of who they left out this week in the AP poll. Number 11 is LSU. LSU's best win this season is probably against Clemson, but Clemson is 2-3 now, so Clemson's bad. Like, Clemson is terrible. They're a horrible team. Sure, you can make the argument against, they lost to Ole Miss by like 5. But LSU, I mean, at the same time, it's kind of just like, well, who do you rank above LSU at this point? Because this college football season has been kind of crazy, especially with Texas and Penn State, which we're also going to get into a little bit. But it has just been a little kind of weird the way that the season has gone so far. Number 12, Tennessee. Their best win would be against Mississippi State. I can see that this is probably the most one that I can see for their ranking, where they're ranked at. Mississippi State obviously beat Arizona State, who is now ranked. Is Arizona State ranked? I think they are. Yes, Arizona's 21st. Yeah, I can kind of see that argument a little bit. But it's just, I don't know. Georgia Tech is number 13. And these next two I have lots of problems with, okay? Georgia Tech beat Colorado by a touchdown on their home field, and we're gonna use that in a little bit to justify a Big 12 team being ranked. Not being ranked, I should say. Yeah, Georgia Tech, their best win is Colorado by a touchdown. They struggled against Wake Forest last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago maybe. I think they beat them by like a field goal or something like that. Not understanding the hype there. Missouri, number 14, Missouri. This is the one that I probably have the biggest problem with where they're at in the rankings, because their best win is Kansas, who, yes, is a solid team. And I think the biggest thing when you're going against Kansas right now is Kansas just doesn't have it figured out yet. They have the players, they have the coaches, I think, but I don't think they have the whole thing figured out yet. And Missouri's best, other than that, I mean, they just destroyed UMass, but that's UMass. There's not a whole lot there for UMass. Next one is 15, Michigan. again, they played a close game against Oklahoma, so I can kind of see it, but their best win is against Nebraska, maybe. So I'm not really, that one's a little bit, kind of like the Tennessee, like I can kind of see the argument, but there's other teams that you would think would be higher up on the list. Next one I have is Illinois at 17. They got blown out 63-10 against Indiana. And this is kind of a two-parter thing that I got going here. Indiana beat Iowa 2 weeks ago and rose like 6 spots. And I don't understand that because you had Iowa State who also beat Iowa. And they didn't rise at all from that. At least not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure we were like 14th. And then we went up to 12 during a bye week. And then we dropped back to 14th after beating Arkansas State, which is, I didn't have much of a problem with that. But then we got Memphis at 23. Memphis barely beat Arkansas, who just got destroyed by Notre Dame, who I will say Notre Dame is a very different team now than they were the first 2 weeks. And Notre Dame's playing, their 2 losses are the 2 top 5 teams in the country right now. So, sure. And I'm not knocking Notre Dame. They have 2 losses against 2 top 5 teams. I do think that they should be ranked. I think where they're at right now at number 16 is a solid spot for them. USF, I can kind of see this one, but at the same time, USF's best win, obviously at Florida, but then they got killed by Miami. And then, this comes with my thing with Texas is okay, Texas just lost at Florida by a possession. USF won by a field goal, or it was 16-15 or something like that. And USF's obviously a G5, but I'm just kind of like if USF and Texas are on the same level, I think that USF should not be ranked. Also, this is where I'm kind of getting into a little bit of the Big 12 portion of this side. Also, Florida State, why? I don't understand why they're even still in. But let's just, all those teams that I just mentioned, what is better that they have done than Cincinnati, who just beat Iowa State and knocked them all the way back to 22, and also beat Kansas by 3 at Kansas. Reminder, the Missouri win against Kansas was at Missouri by 11. Cincinnati, in my opinion, should be ranked. As an Iowa State fan, Cincinnati should 100% be ranked right now. I think Cincinnati's the real deal. I really do. Utah. Why is Utah not in? UCLA just beat Penn State. Utah's biggest win is against UCLA, probably. Would be what I would say. Obviously, they got not shut out. 17-point loss against Texas Tech, who's number 9. But Utah, the fact that UCLA just beat Penn State, that's a pretty strong argument for Utah now to be ranked. This is my biggest one, though. My biggest concern with the team that's not ranked in the Big 12 right now is TCU. TCU beat Colorado by 14. Georgia Tech's biggest win of the season is against Colorado by a touchdown. They have not beaten anyone else. Literally nobody else. I'm going to take a look at their schedule real quick. Because, yes, they are 5-0. But again, the only other decent win that they have is against Clemson, who's a terrible team that we've seen now. Clemson is not good at all. Again, they beat Wake Forest by a single point. And I have a feeling, looking at the rest of Georgia Tech's schedule, they could very well win out. Because they have Virginia Tech, Duke, Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, and Pitt. And then they play Georgia, who they're probably going to get killed to. Which it's crazy to think, but if Georgia Tech is already 13th in the country and their best win is at Colorado by a touchdown, we could be possibly looking at a top 10 game between Georgia and Georgia Tech. And one of those teams hasn't really played anybody. So it's just honestly a little bit stunning to me how Georgia Tech's ranked 13th and then TCU's not ranked at all, but TCU has the bigger win against the same opponent. Like, to me, it just does not make sense at all. So that's enough for the AP poll. We're going to talk about the Big 12 games this weekend. We have several fun games in the conference this week, I think at least. We're going to break a few of them down a little bit, see who's favored, and just give kind of some keys for each team to win the game, how they can win the game. First one we're going to talk about is UCF at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's favored by 11. I just checked these about 15 minutes ago, so these might change a little bit by the time that this is uploaded. UCF at Cincy. Cincy's favored by 11. My keys for this game: UCF avoid long third downs and turnovers. We saw Cincinnati took advantage of that with Iowa State because Iowa State is without a kicker right now who apparently cannot kick a field goal past the 15-yard line. So for UCF, my key for them is to avoid long third downs and turnovers. Cincinnati, air attack, fast. Ground game, fast. Get your offense going quick. Don't let this UCF defense get into a rhythm. I'm not going to make predictions today. That'll be in the next episode. My next game I have is Houston at Oklahoma State. Houston is favored by 15. Houston, I have put pressure on the QB because Oklahoma State, it sounds like their starting quarterback for this weekend is a wide receiver. So that'll be really interesting to see that. I guess this guy played quarterback in high school and he was recruited as a quarterback and then switched to wide receiver. And now he's going back to quarterback because Haas Haney, something with his foot. It sounds like he broke his foot or something like that. Oklahoma State, there's not much here, to be honest. I wrote down fast start if possible, but it's Oklahoma State. There's not even much to say for keys because I don't think they really have any, to be honest. TCU at Kansas State. This is, in my opinion, probably going to be the most interesting game this week. TCU is favored by 2. My keys for TCU are get explosive plays through the air. Try to exploit Kansas State's defense as fast as possible. Try to put up big numbers in the first half if you can. Kansas State, I said this last week when they were playing Baylor, Avery Johnson's got to use his legs. Whether he's running the ball, whether he's running out of the pocket, trying to throw a deep ball to, I can't think of his name, their wide receiver, number 1, I think his last name is Brown. But Avery Johnson's got to use his legs. And I think we've seen that more, especially last week. He had 79 rushing yards, I believe, against Baylor. He's got to use his legs. I mean, that's just what he's got to do to help his team prevail. Next one we've got is Kansas at Texas Tech. Texas Tech is favored by 14. For Kansas, I have, and a lot of these are going to be sort of similar, but avoid turnovers and long third downs. Texas Tech is one of the best, if not the best, defense in the country right now. So you got to avoid the turnovers and avoid, 3rd and 10s. You got to make it like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. Something where it's more manageable for you to even just run the ball up the middle, where you can have those, 2-3 yard gains. That'll get you to the next set of downs. For Texas Tech, I have put as much pressure on Daniels as possible and also finish drives. They had like 5 field goals, I think, against Houston, and they were all within like the 35, 40-yard line. I'd say that's Texas Tech's biggest issue right now, is finishing drives and trying to, not that field goals aren't good, because yes, you obviously still get points from them, but, and Texas Tech just puts up 35 points on everybody, apparently, is what we've seen from them. But yeah, finish drives, pressure Daniels as much as possible. Next one we have is BYU at Arizona. BYU's favored by 2. BYU, I have hit explosive plays and good balance of play calling. As we saw against Arizona and Iowa State, Arizona came to the ball very, very quick when we were running the ball. There was a lot of plays. Iowa State did not get the amount of yards that we wanted to because Arizona was in the backfield so quick. I have getting explosive plays, good balance of play calling, just a good overall offensive mix, I think this is kind of a prove-it game for BYU as well, because they struggled a little bit against West Virginia. They got off to a hot start, but then they just kind of forgot how to play the game of football for a little bit. So I would say for BYU, this is definitely more of a prove-it game for them. Arizona's 4-1. They're a good, solid team. Obviously, they're only lost to Iowa State. For Arizona, I put play your own game, which is, like I just said, defense. Get in the backfield as fast as you can. Get pressure on Bear Bachmeier as quick as you can. Make him feel uncomfortable. Last one. I have two more. Arizona State at Utah. Utah's favored by 7. For Arizona State's key, I have Devin Dampier. Force him to get uncomfortable in the backfield. I don't really have much else to say about that for Arizona State. Utah, I have dominate the line of scrimmage on both offense and defense. I think that's going to be a huge key for them. Iowa State at Colorado. This is the last one we got. Iowa State's favored by 3. As an Iowa State fan, we saw how this went last week because Iowa State, the line was going back and forth between Iowa State and Cincinnati, both favored by 2 a little bit. For Iowa State, I have protect the ball, get as many defensive stops as possible, if that's possible. If Iowa State plays defensively like we did in the first half against Cincinnati, I think Iowa State could get killed because Colorado has some playmakers. I think if Iowa State's defense plays how they did in the second half against Cincinnati, I think Iowa State will be just fine. Cincinnati only scored a touchdown in the second half, which was much better. Way, way, way better. For Colorado, I have take advantage of the depleted defense of Iowa State, force them off the field on offense. Don't allow Iowa State to continuously move the ball on 3rd down and 4th down because Iowa State, again, they're going to go for it a lot. I assume at least. We saw that against Cincinnati that they went for it a lot. And that's another thing, too, for Iowa State. You got to finish your drive. I mean, I think there was 4 different times on 4th down from the 30-yard line where we did not convert the fourth down. I will say, as an Iowa State fan, I think a lot of that was because of the play calling. There was one of the plays we had was a 3rd and 6. Or it might have even been 3rd and 7. And we did a quarterback sneak. I mean, I kind of get it. Catch the defense off guard. But at the same time, you haven't caught them off guard pretty much the whole game. I mean, sure, we had some big offensive plays, but I did not really see that being a strong suit for Iowa State in this game. So, but yeah, I think that could be a very interesting game too. I feel like that could very well be the same kind of a story as the Iowa State-Cincinnati game was over the weekend, over this past weekend. So yeah. We will be back on Friday with our next episode, going in depth a little bit more with these games, and I'll be talking about who my picks are for the weekend, so make sure you come back for that. Anyways, that is it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Big 12 Deep Dive, the podcast where we break down everything Big 12 football and basketball.